The rockin' world go round. Hey, everybody, welcome into the Creed of Crypto live stream. My name is Boi Crypto. I have here with me, as always, my friend and co-host Crypto Ewok. We have a whole bunch of you guys popping in the chat already. Brizology, shout out. Good to see you in here, man. Checks my pulse. Glad to see you too. DGen Moonboy, of course, Scrubhead. We got, Crypto Ewok is you. Take a break with Jake, of course, producing the show. Johnny Chaos gracing us with his presence, and a whole lot more. Fast Abdul in there, if I didn't say that too. So I appreciate you guys being here. We got a big show for you tonight, and we're going to talk about, like, should we trust these people running for president? Pretty easy answer, I think. But when it comes to some of the crypto rhetoric, that we're seeing from Kamala Harris now, I would say RG3. What's the RFK? Got crypto on the mind. And Trump. I mean, should we trust some of the rhetoric that we're seeing? And that even goes for Trump, quite frankly. I mean, like, we're, traditionally, I mean, we're looking to vote for Trump, obviously, with a lot of his policies right now. But also, I mean, how legit is some of the things he's saying about crypto, or is it just, valuable that he's even saying the things that he is anyway? We would like to get you guys' thoughts on that stuff. We got a lot to talk about with BTC and ETH and how the price action is right now. We're seeing like a bit of a sell-off right now that it looks to be from some of the Mt. Gox coins actually being out there. So we'll get into that. We have FOMC today. They don't do anything, but there is still a high probability that they will cut interest rates in September. We'll get into that, where we're at with the cycle, what's going on with PulseChain. A lot of stuff, again, with these candidates talking at the Bitcoin conference over the last week. We have a lot of different stuff to get to. Did the SEC really deem Solana, ADA, and some of these other things not securities? We're going to get to that because that's a lot of what the narrative is going around the last couple of days. I don't know that that's really what we heard. So would love to hear from you guys. Hit us up in the chat. We want to hear from you. Ewok, how are you? How are you feeling this evening?
Happy Wednesday, man. Feeling pretty good. All things considered, markets are still where they are, more sideways. So lots of political drama. There's always stuff. You got the Olympics going on. And yeah, I mean, I'm doing pretty good. I think we're still pretty much right on schedule where we've kind of said we would be, and sideways into, September, October, at least until we see some sort of movement. So yeah, doing pretty good.
Yeah. Let's we'll kind of look at where the market is here first right now. So we got BTC selling off right now. The last I looked a few minutes ago, I think it was down to about 64K. Let me pull it back up here. Yeah, just under 65K. So I mean, measly 2% down. On the day, we have ETH still, pretty much performing like dog poop here at about 3,200. Its ratio against BTC still not good after the announcement of the ETF. Like, the ETF is live. It's not just that we announced the ETF. Like, the thing is now live. I saw the first like positive day of inflows for it since its launch just the other day. So hey, we're still inside a week of this thing launching. So it remains to be seen. It's been a sell the news event so far, of course. So we'll continue to look at that. But just what we're seeing right now. So here we are. It's the last day of July. A lot of people have been touting August is the time we might be able to start going back up again. And then I know a lot of people really talking about October, November as the time that things could get significantly better heading into the U.S. election. Not that that necessarily has anything to do with it, but maybe. An interesting tweet by Bob Lucas the other day, who I know you love, Ewok. He, the creator or fan of the Bitcoin 4-year cycles, he talked the other day about September the 15th, that right around that day, we could very well see a breakout to new all-time high for BTC based on past cycles, the behavior that we've seen before. And he actually said he thinks it's entirely possible and probable 100K BTC by December. And that would just be Bitcoin basically doing something reasonable based on what it's done in past cycles. So I found that very interesting because if we could see 100K BTC this year, that shows you that in 3-4 months, a lot can happen, as we know can happen in this market. But I'll shoot it over to you. What are you kind of seeing with Bitcoin and ETH right now? Both of them. What are your thoughts on the recent price action and any other direction you want to take it, Ewok?
Yeah, I mean, so that's funny that he said 100,000 by the year end. That would be, I just want to measure that from here, because we're looking 42% up. I think that's kind of crazy. I'm not on that train at all. I do think we're going to see some nice run up, but I don't think 100,000 by the end of the year. I think we'll be lucky to hit 80, 85 maybe. I think that's pretty standard for where things go after a halving and whatnot. I am seeing, the pullback on the ratio again.
Yeah.
It's kind of corrected as far as the Bitcoin ETH ratio. We're back to 0.04 there. We were hanging out at 0.05 for the longest time, and it broke that level. And it's kind of, there's a green candle now. It's kind of fighting its way back. I really thought the ETFs would have more effect now. Apparently, there was a big sell the news. And, uh, in that case, though, we should have had a buy the rumor pump, and we just didn't. So it's pretty. I don't know. It's very interesting to see these levels just kind of hanging out where they're at. I thought we would have a little bit more action, you know, uh, up to this point anyway. You got your total crypto market cap still only 2.287 trillion, and remember, we've had, I think Bitcoin actually hit 3 trillion by itself at one point. So yeah, I mean, just again, I think we're in these levels. I don't think the 4-year cycle has ever really deviated from what it really is.
Mhm.
So, just take a look back at the previous chart and look at the sections of how that 4-year cycle goes as far as halving goes, where it runs, where it dips. Um, the only deviation we had was BTC actually hitting an all-time high uh, before it happened. So, that was just a weird, I think, black swan event with the ETF in combination. I still think you're going to see a lot more Wall Street money flowing in over some time here once, you know, especially once the elections happen. And if, we could kind of roll into that later a little bit, but um, if it goes the way people that are in favor of the economy doing better, then I think you'll see a nice run up. If it doesn't, man, I'm not sure. I think it could be a little bit longer, and at that point, the Fed probably would have to lower rates to stimulate it a little bit. But we also talk about that having a detrimental effect for a few months after rates happen to get cut. So we're in a weird spot. We're in a very weird spot. I just see a lot more sideways movement for at least another month, probably all of August and maybe into September, just kind of chopping sideways. You may get a little bit of a pump or whatnot, but it's going to retrace pretty quickly. I think it just goes and stays in that channel for a while.
I do think we're at the point where the difference between what Bitcoin is going to do and what ETH and the altcoins are going to do, like we have to start seeing some kind of decorrelation or at least some closing of the gap with Ethereum to Bitcoin, I think. I mean, you're right. We did drop below that 0.5 number just the other day, which is just kind of astonishing with the fact that the ETF is now live. I mean, like it went down to numbers
Yeah.
that it hadn't been to in virtually like almost months. So again, that said, ETH really hasn't had a good ratio against BTC for most of the year, but it's had a better one that it's even at right now. So I think that's what we're going to start to see is maybe you're right that Bitcoin, at least for the next month, is still kind of sideways. I can totally see that, but I think that we are going to see at least some tepid movement on ETH and some of these altcoins. I just think we're gearing up for that to start to shift, and just in time for people to get comfortable with like, oh yeah, the ETH ETF was a sell the news event. This has been a pile of crap so far. What's the point? Why were we all excited? And just by the time that they're all capitulating on that idea is when things start to turn around, probably. So,
Yep.
I think we will see that. Go ahead. Were you gonna say something?
No, I just say that's usually how it goes, man. People
Yeah.
get kind of bored and
Yeah.
stagnant, and that's when things happen because they're not expecting it. And that's that markets usually work out that way. Once people are just very kind of bored with everything, that's when you see a big jump. They're not expecting it.
What do you make kind of going in tandem with this? So the FOMC did have a meeting today. It was expected that they would not do anything with interest rates. They did not. I did not fully read the comments from Jerome Powell, but again, as I said earlier, I mean, it's been highly anticipated, and I mean like with a high probability that in September they will cut rates for the first time. Since they have pivoted and gone to hiking them a couple of years ago here. So we're kind of in a new paradigm. And you and I were just saying this off the air, like you were saying you were doubtful that they would cut them at that time. We have talked before, like overall, yes, the cutting of interest rates to get back to normal is going to be like bullish overall long term as a thing to do, but shorter term it is bearish. We usually see over the course of months, the stock market has an average drawdown of, I think it's around 30%, like 28% or something after a rate cut. So that might confuse some people. Like, well, you know, you've got Jerome Powell, who, you know, this isn't conspiratorial, like is a Democrat, is, you know, trying to save face for himself, he can't really save face for Biden at this point, but save face for that party as much as he can. I know we're all in like Kamala heaven right now and everything. But I do still think like if the direction they're going to go is to cut them, then they're going to cut them. But I don't think it's going to be just as simple as like, oh man, they cut interest rates. That's usually bearish for markets. Why would they cut their own legs off only 6 weeks before the election in the U.S., which is like early November? The next OMC is September 17th and 18th. I don't think it's going to be that cut and dry as like, oh, we cut interest rates in mid-September and that ruin the stock market by the time of the U.S. election. I mean, I don't think it'll be that easy, but yeah, what do you make of that? What do you think the chances are of them cutting rates? Because the market seems confident that they're going to, so I tend to agree with that. But what do you think?
Yeah, well, I've heard the contrary. I've heard that they probably won't do anything this year. I don't remember where I heard that, but the last report that I had heard was there because of that and because of the timing of the election, everything like that, that their odds were not very good that they would do anything this year at all. So I think that that look of doing it and then having things pull back, and you're right, I think it was 32 or 34% pullback on average after a rate cut is what we would probably be looking at, and it would be right in alignment with the election. So I don't see them doing that at this point. And it might have even been Axis who was on when he was talking about it last week, who said that maybe not. I don't remember, but yeah, I don't see them cutting rates at all this year. I think they'll wait until new administration. That way it's fresh, no matter who it is. And, you know, you can kind of have a fresh base, fresh start, so to speak. I think they'll really wait till the beginning of next year.
So you are in the overwhelming minority. You're in the 10% with that assessment. I just put it in the chat. So from the CME group, like the probabilities that they have on each one of the FOMCs, 90.5% believe that there will be an easing of some sort. Now, I don't believe it says like what the basis points are. I'm sure that's probably already common knowledge out there that I don't know yet, but I think the probability is that it would at least be 25 points that they would bring it down. So yeah, I just put that in the chat. So I tend to, if that's what they're thinking, it usually does go that way. So I tend to think that that's what's going to happen. And it'll be really interesting to see how the market reacts. But I mean, overall, macro wise, I mean, with the election coming up this year and all these crazy things going on, I think we are lining up really, really well macro wise, for the rest of this year, the rest of this cycle, really. So, I don't know if you had any kind of final thoughts on that, but I mean, we're going to get into some of the politician crypto stuff, but I mean, with all that going on this year, I do think we're heading into bullish territory for sure.
Well, I think we're definitely headed into bullish territory. I think an administration change would be what would really light the fire. I mean, I think that's all we need. I don't even think we need rate cuts to do that if we were to get a change. Just knowing how the economy was the last time that Trump was president and what we've seen in the last 4 years, I think people look at it as kind of a breathe a sigh of relief a little bit, at least for the economy. People hopefully will be able to, we'll get some gas prices back down, make things more affordable. And yeah, I think that's enough to spark it. I really do.
Yeah, I think it's, and we'll get into this, but I mean, speaking of Bob Lucas, I did see a tweet from his today that I did appreciate. He was talking about how, like, regardless of which side you're relying on, the election of the next president, and this is a good thing, just like how I always make the comparison with, like, the SEC doesn't really have that much of an effect on the market. long term because nobody takes them seriously. But whoever the president is should not affect the performance of the crypto market. I mean, I think like at least in short term, and I think obviously we know what candidate would help that out a lot more. But we shouldn't be relying on that to make crypto do what it needs to do, because it's a technology that's needed. It's a technology that's slowly but surely infiltrating the lives of everybody. And it's done a lot of that under actually democratic leadership, weirdly enough. Now, and I'm saying that, I'm not saying because of any kind of democratic policy. I'm saying it because of what crypto is. So I think that's something to feel positive about, even if, 2020 history repeats itself election wise. I'll say that. Yeah.
Well, and here's the big thing. We've done pretty well under Operation Choke Point, under Elizabeth Warren and her cronies with the SEC and everybody trying to just throw lawsuits at everybody and see what happens. So imagine if those people are replaced. I don't know that Elizabeth Warren will go anywhere. But some of the SEC members would be obviously appointed and not elected, so they would be probably changed over fairly quickly. So I think that alone breathes a sigh of relief. So just like you said, what we did under Democratic Party, battling all that stuff, imagine what we can do is if there's more people just in favor of it or not fighting back anyway, not necessarily in favor, but not pushing back. No restrictions, no Operation Choke Point 3.0.
Less government, basically, which is always usually way better. Yeah,
exactly. So I think that's the point I was trying to make. I think just the change alone will do wonders.
Yeah. I'm with you. If you guys are enjoying the stream so far, do us a favor, smash the like. We appreciate you being here. We do this every Wednesday night at 6:30 p.m. Eastern time. Briz says, great point, Ewok. I guess I'm sliced cheese bread. I don't know what it is. But anyway, thanks, Briz. Let's get into where we are with PulseChain. So we are continuing to see Pulse kind of consolidate in these ranges up off of the bottom again. We've had that double bottoming range here over the last month or two. And I'm still feeling really good about how far we've come up off that bottom again. I mean, we never truly did hit the nut bottom from like August of 2023, nearly a calendar year ago. But we were down there, and we pretty much virtually scooped it up. I mean, we were within 20%. And, really, we're not even all that far off now. But I've really enjoyed just seeing this more bullish action, at least getting us up out of the doldrums, maybe printing a couple of weekly green candles. We have seen PulseX just dominate ratio-wise. I mean, like continuing to have its top ratio against Pulse, which I think is a really good sign for everything. But yeah, I mean, I know people are still feeling bearish right now in terms of just sentiment overall. Of course, there's fighting because when isn't there, Tangang and that whale Pulse account who just like his whole purpose on Twitter is just to like say negative Tangang stuff. I don't know. I mean, that stuff's always going to be there. And I think that's great that it is, because that shows how much like passion is on the chain. I don't care what side you're on. So that is good. But yeah, I'm liking where we're at overall. Sure, I would like to be prices to be higher, but I mean, it's chugging along, and I'm glad it's sweeped up off the lows. So what do you got the PulseX Pulse rate? Well, I'll just say all the prices real quick. So we've got Pulse at 4 zeros and a 446. We are seeing a little bit of a dip right before we went on the air as the whole market kind of dipped. PulseX is at 4 zeros and a 2.5. We have incentive at $2.56. Hex is at 0055, and eHex is at 0012. So yeah, let's take a look. I mean, wherever you want to go first. If you wanted to go back to that PulseX to Pulse ratio, we could do that, and then just maybe look at the Pulse ratio to see like the leader coin of the pack and see where it's at. But there you go.
This ratio is crazy. I mean, it's at 0.56. We've come a long way, being a third of a token. Just what a month? Well, a month and a week. Back at the 21st of June. We were at 0.4, less than half back here, almost, we were looking at 0.33. I guess it was a little bit back in March when we were back there, but still 3 to 1 to now we're at half. So it's a little over that anyway. So yeah, this is a crazy run up. it looks good. And back to what Axis was saying, is these things could hit parity here pretty quickly, I think. And not sure that I like that as a liquidity provider for the PulseX pair, but I think if you play out this cycle long enough, and if you're in there as a liquidity provider long term, things probably will balance back out. And yeah, I'm not going to yank the liquidity at this point, because that would be just silly.
No, I don't think we're to that place yet. I mean, this is still, even though this is a top for the range, I mean, I think there's a way to go before. And we did, actually shout out to Axis in the stream we did last week. There's a couple of really good clips we've put up of us talking about liquidity providing and like when kind of your break even point may be on that. I highly encourage people to check that out. But yeah, that PulseX ratio, I mean, you could see in that chart, you don't have to go back to it, but you pointed out March. That was right before that big send-off that we kind of had, where the ecosystem ran up and a ton of money was injected into PulseX, and that's when that ratio really shot up. It retraced a lot of that move, but now it's just come right back up. So, yeah, quite crazy. Did you want to pull up the Pulse chart just for a moment? We'll kind of see like where it looks like we are. We are seeing a couple of weekly green candles here. And, we mentioned it a couple of weeks ago when one of those days when I don't remember the exact price, but we were again virtually at the all-time low of 00. I think it was 4 zeros and a 3.8 or something like that. Richard Hart did tweet like, "Hey, like don't look now, but the PulseChain's bottoming again. It's as low as it's been, since the SEC attack a year ago or whatever." I mean, he literally tweeted that.
Yep.
And boom, there we've come up off of it. I mean, I figured that would be a bullish tweet, whether it's just saying, "Hey, take a look over here to see what kind of prices you can get," or whatever it is. But yeah, you can see, I mean, we've come off that really, really nicely here, putting in higher lows. I mean, it looks pretty good to me. So yeah, what do you make of where we're at right here?
Well, yeah, I mean, we had a 45% run up there within, what was that? 10 days, 45% up. And, obviously right after that, you've got a pullback of, it's not letting me do it. Anyway,
probably like 20%, 15%. I don't know.
Yeah. Trying to, it's not letting me.
I think it went up right into that range
17.
of
17.5%.
Yeah.
So I mean, honestly, in order to be healthy, some of these run-ups are going to have some sell-offs. It's just a matter of how quickly do the sellers get exhausted before it can do what it did again. I think many people weren't here for the original, to see Hex and how many times it ran up and it would do a double and then pull back 50-60% each time. I forget how many times it did it. I think it was like 11 times that we pulled back between 30 and 70% on each one of those run-ups. It just, like I said, it helps the sellers get out. They run out of steam. They're trying to play the market, and there are people that are successful at playing some of these dips. So, the traders, some of them will make out okay. A lot of them will get wrecked and probably left behind where they have to buy in at a higher price, which is another reason why you get a lot more green candles too. So these are healthy. I think this is healthy as long as we make a higher low, and then we can make another run up, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you're back up into things. And I literally think, what is this point? So where's the, I think we could easily be back to SAC level here in a few months, maybe April-ish. I think. I guess that's a little more than a few months, 6 months, but yeah,
I think it could be before then. But
it could be. I think it really depends again on what Ethereum does. If that ETF starts taking off. A lot of the value is tied. It kind of transfers. The rising tide lifts all boats kind of thing. And I think you'll see that correlate over to Pulse as well. So it's really going to depend on that. Now, this is looking I don't say it's looking better than Ethereum is, but this previous, you know, what, 3 or 4 weeks, definitely looks better with this latest run up. So
Right.
yeah, I think it's looking pretty healthy. Again, as long as we don't pull back again to this level, it's looking pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah, I've definitely liked that we've come up to these prices anyway. I wanted to talk about this real quick. I didn't really put this I didn't warn you about this really before the show, but it's not like you're not kind of educated about this anyway. I just mentioned a bit ago about you know, sentiment wise and some of the infighting and stuff like that. There's pretty much max FUD right now on a lot of the altcoins within PulseChain. Actually, just today, I don't know if you saw, but just a few hours ago, PDI went down like 30% in an hour. Like that whole ecosystem essentially did. I guess some whale sold down tons of its stack within a half-hour period or something like that, and it took the price of PDI down like 30% in an hour. Obviously, the Tangang stuff has been pretty much for them all-time max FUD territory where they're at right now. But I mean, I think it's just kind of overall. I'm not saying anything at all negative about any of the kind of altcoin communities on Pulse. I think the Pulse dominance has just gone up. I mean, I think that's been relatively universal against a lot of the altcoins, but you know, you've got that Whale Pulse account out there whose seemingly, you know, life mission is to. I actually think he probably is invested in Tangang, because anybody that tweets about stuff that much, it seems a little bit fishy to me to be real. Honestly, I don't buy it, but yeah, like the Tangang stuff is max FUD. They, of course, go back and forth with the Atropa ecosystem. Again, I love all that stuff. I think that's good stuff to see. Briz says he is not whale.pulse. So, okay, there we go. But yeah, what do you make of that? I mean, I'll just take it. I want to go head on with you about this because I don't know how much we'll disagree, and it'll make for some good content anyway. But do you think the Tangang, is it warranted some of this stuff? You know, some of the stuff that, and I'd be lying if I say I listen to every space that Orange Gooey or Too Spooky does or anything like that. I've heard some of their stuff every now and then, more so Too Spooky than Orange Gooey. But do you think with like some of the inflammatory ways they talk sometimes, even though there is definitely some knowledge to be gained there too, do you think what is happening in that account and some of the attack on them is warranted, or is that even the right question to ask? Where are you kind of at with all that? I'm curious.
Well, I think totally some of it is warranted. I mean, they can really be assholes just to be blunt about it. Is there knowledge there? Well, yeah, those guys have been around Hex since the beginning. I just find it odd sometimes that they shit on Richard so much, and yet that's how they kind of got their start, or maybe not got their start. But I know they've made some money. I know both those guys that you spoke of were pretty early Hexicans. So I don't know. I don't care for that. If you're going to branch off and try and do your own thing, don't talk shit about the guy that made you some money in the beginning. Just because maybe they don't like what happened or how things went down. I think maybe a lot of these guys don't have the long-term mindset that's needed. I think I mentioned it in I not retweeted, but I replied to somebody's tweet about how the Hexicans have collapsed, and I totally disagree.
I responded to that tweet today too. I probably got it recommended to me because you commented on it. Yeah.
I think it was Sai who created Hex Toys. So he's kind of changed his persona online as well. Which is funny. A lot of these people have. And again, it all goes back to long-term mindset, knowing what the T-shares are, knowing what Hex the product is, not so much the Hex coin, but the Hex T-share. And for me, it's more long-term. It's all about, do you have the patience to survive this shit and be staked out long enough to where, you know, there's going to be a lot of people that aren't going to make it that long. And that's why there were so few wallets in Bitcoin that made it that long. And I think you're going to see a very similar thing. Most of the people that made money in Bitcoin forgot they even had a wallet, forgot it was on a hard drive, and they revived it 10 years later. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Things like that. So Do they deserve some of the shit? Yes. I think they tried to clout chase a lot. Now, do they have good ideas? Sure. Memes are and can be very powerful, right? You can start a lot of momentum with it, but is it long lasting? Not usually. And that's the problem with some of this stuff is you can get a good momentum. The problem is keeping it. And I think with a lot of those tokens, there is a lot of single-sided liquidity that is only on a sell side. So there's also some value extraction going on too. And I'm not saying that I don't own any of it because I have some of it. You know that as well. It's just I think your original question was it warranted, and I think the answer is yes.
I do have one retort to the long-term, short-term thinking here. I mean, like, and while with Richard Hart products, and you're talking about hacks, and we obviously we're here in PulseChain because we think this is something that is a great DeFi space that will last multiple cycles and do well multiple cycles and all these things. But that isn't something that happens with much of cryptocurrency at all. I mean, you and I just the other night were having a conversation around the fire about like what really has shown not just like it's existed for a couple of cycles, but like has proven it is a product that is going to be used in the world of crypto, still has like somewhat sizable gains. And we named a few tokens. I mean, there weren't very many that we talked about. And I guess my argument back and my argument for the memes, especially ones as good as that the Tang Gang are doing, is like some of these people might just be here for this cycle anyway because they're realizing that a lot of this other stuff is garbage out here. I mean, we've talked endlessly on this show about, the VC backed blockchains and stuff like that people just get absolutely wrecked on every single cycle, And I would much rather now, of course, you always want to be responsible with the amount of money that you're throwing into anything, especially a meme coin or something like that. But to me, like putting your money in something like milk from the Tang Gang because it has pictures of well endowed women and milk and stuff like that, and it's a good meme. I don't think that's any worse than buying like Solana right now, honestly. I mean, I think it's better, obviously, because I do it. So I mean, I get it. I mean, it can seem like, oh, but that's not real. It's just something somebody made up. Well, I mean, yeah, okay. Well, some of these blockchains are also like, good tech and all this stuff, even though Solana goes down all the time, but like these VC back chains that you're going to get dumped on. So I'd rather buy especially in this environment, like we're in the bull market now, I would rather buy, especially from a tight knit community like the Tang Gang, that does some of the liquidity providing stuff that they do and everything. You could argue like, yeah, did too many tokens get made and it's easy to make a dumb decision aping into one as soon as it gets launched or whatever. I've done it a little bit here and there. Yeah, I totally agree with that, but I'd rather be participating in that than buying Polkadot or some of these other legit crypto things that are going to be here for multiple cycles just because they exist. So just as far as the time frame thing, I think as long as you're not putting your entire net worth into it, that these memes like what's the time frame in crypto? You know what I mean? For an individual project, product, token, whatever. I mean, it's just not that long sometimes. So
Right, and everybody's time frame is different, and that's the thing. We don't know how long people what they want out of it. I've been here since 2000, early 2017, and I don't plan on going anywhere. I mean, I think it's going to be around for many more years. So would I like to make enough to retire? Well, yeah, sure. But I think you have people that kind of look at crypto as I can get in, make a fortune, and get out. And that's just usually not how it happens. It just doesn't happen that way for the majority of folks. And unfortunately, so many people have that dream. Not many people buy the bottom. Not many people sell the top. Not many people get rich in one cycle. So, it's hard. It's a lot harder than what it's, kind of made out to be as these crypto dudes that got really rich. So, a lot of them, like I said, the reason they got rich is probably because they bought something, they forgot about it, and 8 years, 10 years later, they're like, oh, I found the seed phrase to this wallet. Let me go find that computer and pull it off of that hard drive, kind of thing. So,
Right. Yeah.
that's how it usually goes. And that's a long time. Like I said, people are just not patient enough, I think, a lot of times to not only pick the winners, but pick the ones that are going to last. So,
Yeah.
anyway, that's
No,
my
I feel you. I feel you. Cool. All right. Well, if you guys are enjoying the stream, do us a favor, hit the like. We appreciate you all being here. We do this every single Wednesday night at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Let's get into this. So we're going to kind of do a trifecta here. We'll talk about like all three. And again, RFK, is he a serious candidate? Is he not? I mean, I definitely like the guy, but yeah, I mean, it's very tough for third parties to do anything well in this political system because they're set up for failure from the beginning. I mean, it's all about the Democrats and Republicans, and the Democrats totally kicked RFK to the curb in more ways than one. So he's running as an independent now. But anyway, he is somebody that figures to get a significant portion of the popular vote for a third party, I should say, anyway. So, we had Trump, who, of course, lit it up at the BTC event in Nashville. Not only did he tout a whole bunch of positivity about crypto, but he talked about wanting the world to be the world leader in crypto. Talks about self-custody, which he's done multiple times. Just the fact that whether he totally understands it or not, just the fact that somebody has put it in his ear to talk about that. I mean, that's like really the backbone of crypto. That's what so many people that are in crypto don't even actually do. They just have something sitting on exchanges. They don't even understand self-custody. So it's really good that he is at least aware of it. And again, we're not Trump fanboys. I'm not sitting here saying that like, oh yeah, like Trump's going to be the most pro-crypto president ever. I mean, this is why I put this in the thumbnail. I mean, like, we could totally have Trump get elected and the crypto stuff totally goes by the wayside. And again, he's not going to actively attack it, but he may just not care about it. You know what I mean? Or not really talk about it anymore. But it's cool that he talked about the self-custody stuff. He got a huge reaction. You and I were dying over this the other night. But whenever he said that on day one, he'll fire Gary Gensler, the crowd went absolutely insane,
nuts.
as you would expect. Went nuts. And I genuinely think Trump wasn't acting here. He said like, whoa, I knew you hated him. I didn't know you hated him that much. And it seemed legit. I don't think he understands just how much people despise this guy because he is actively trying to push all of this elsewhere, like to hurt this industry throughout the country, and obviously we in our ecosystem are dealing with him maybe more than anybody right now. So it was cool that he did that. He repeated the line again about firing Gensler, so that was cool. Gensler's term does go into 2026. We've already heard rumors that there's a chance he could be gone in early next year because of Biden being gone. I don't know where the legs are with that. But anyway, first, we'll tackle all these candidates real quick. But like, what did you think of the Trump thing at the Bitcoin conference, the self-custody points, the Gensler stuff, any direction you want to take it?
Well, yeah, I think the Gensler thing was huge. And if anything happens, that would probably be step one, right? They do kind of appoint their own people anyway. And he said day one, he'll be fired. He said that before the crowd even reacted. So I think that was one of his things that he does want to do, and then realized how popular of an opinion that was. So I think that's good. Mentioning self-custody, great. More people need to do it. Not enough people do it anyway. And you had some legislation that was trying to get passed at one point, who said, and I don't remember who was in charge of this that was pushing it, but if you self-custody, you have to register. You have to KYC yourself, even when you do that. So hopefully that can get tossed out the window, tossed aside, whatever. As far as what will he do, I think you were kind of spot on there. I don't know that he's going to push for it, but I don't think he's going to fight back. I really don't think that there's going to be much pushback and programs that try to go after little things that don't matter. I also don't think there will be any push for a CBDC, which I've heard there's testing starting in Great Britain, or somewhere with a CBDC program. So I know a lot of states have already pushed back and said, not here. We're not doing it. I know DeSantis did in Florida. There were a couple others that were on that wagon as well to say, yeah, we're not going to have that in our state either. So, yeah, Hex Girl just mentioned it. The other big thing, Donald Trump now following Richard Hart out of this.
Junior. Make sure you say the junior there.
Donald Trump Jr. Sorry. If you remember correctly, they had claimed at one point that his Twitter was hacked, and he said something about fighting for Richard Hart at one point.
He said, "When I become president, I'm going to fire Gary Gensler." Yeah, something about shitting on the SEC in favor of Richard Hart or something like that.
Yeah, there was
Trump Jr.'s account,
and now he's following him. So it's it's quite interesting, and I just think my biggest wonder, and I don't know that usually we get our SEC stuff and knowledge from Nuclear Herbs. I don't know if the administration changes and these guys kind of drag their feet with this case, does it kind of go out the window? And I think that's, I think we'll talk about that a little bit in another part of this segment, but I think that's a good possibility. And I don't know how true it is, but again, I think there's plenty of reasons to support Trump for what he would do for crypto, what he would do with the SEC, there's a lot of things, and the lack of pushback and trying to stifle the growth. So anyway.
And I will say, to qualify a couple of those, like for example, no, I don't think he's going to fire Gary Gensler on day one. That's one of those things like, I'm going to put Hillary in jail. Like, of course, none of that ever happened or was going to ever happen or anything. I actually don't think he would even have the ability to fire Gary Gensler. I think his term is his term. I think that's pretty much it. So
Johnny said, he said Richard was innocent or something. Yeah.
Okay.
I knew it was something along those lines, that Richard didn't do anything, or I'm in Richard's corner, but you're right. It was Richard. Richard was innocent. So
it was definitely interesting how that got tweeted out. And again, really interesting that Trump Jr. is following him. I mean, is this a story if it's Eric Trump? I just wonder that, like, Eric Trump's following Richard Hart. Just kind of funny. But anyway, Eric, the forgotten brother. But I mean, definitely overall, like, bullish conference and everything. I don't think that Trump is going to come out and be this, like, he's going to introduce all these new policies and stuff like that on crypto or anything necessarily. But I think he's in favor of it, somewhat understands it, and is going to leave the industry alone and doesn't want people like Gensler try to make a buck off of people like this. The
one thing I forgot to mention, and Maddie was there at the conference, and I heard him mention something that if you wanted to see Trump speak, you had to be in that room like 6 hours in advance. You couldn't leave. You couldn't, go to the bathroom. You couldn't drink, no water, no drinks or anything like that. So, the ones that were there, and it looked like a pretty full house. But either way, the ones that were there, it took some definite commitment from them to, sacrifice 6 hours like that.
Where was the headline? Trump holds people hostage at,
right? I'm surprised we didn't. Yeah, I'm surprised we didn't see something like that. But
I heard it was like $70,000 or something just to get like a picture taken with him or something like that, like just to do anything like that. It's pretty crazy. But
well, I don't know if you heard that. That Trump is coming back to Butler, PA. And that's where the assassination attempt happened. That you can no longer find anything on Google about, which is interesting.
Oh my God, dude!
As well.
I didn't even mean for us to get into this, but I was testing that the other day. I seriously can't believe it. Like, if you just start typing in like assassination attempt, like, think about like anything else in your life, like any kind of other big recent event. Like, if you start typing like, who is Travis Kelce dating? Who Taylor Swift's boyfriend? Like it's going to fill it in. Like, the obvious thing is going to fill in. You start typing in assassination attempt, Trump isn't even an option. It doesn't even populate. It's incredible. And
it's like they've scrubbed it completely,
dude.
And if you search Donald Trump, President Donald Trump, it brings up Kamala Harris. Have you seen that?
I haven't seen that. No,
Not assassination, but just Google his name.
yeah.
And it brings up, yeah, it's pretty crazy.
The wiping of the shooting thing though is absolutely insane, and some people hesitant to call it an assassination attempt and all this. It's just unbelievable, like how it has just been like, okay, let's get this out of the news as quickly as we possibly can. All right, create some chaos with Biden. Now do this. Introduce Kamala. Blah 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 blah. I just can't believe it. Like the dude was literally shot at in the head a couple of weeks ago. It's just insane. Anyway, yeah, well, we got a long road to go as far as all these jokers go. And in terms of the other candidates, RFK, you know, as a footnote, also positively spoke at the conference about crypto. You know, and people are behind him. And again, I do like the guy. It doesn't stand a chance because he's running as an independent, and you know, the Democrats basically abandoned him and all this stuff. But you know, Kamala apparently said she was gonna go and then backed out, and then says that her and her party are looking to like something like heal the relationship with crypto or something to that effect, which essentially means like, AKA, hey, I need your votes right now for the next couple of months. And not only will I abandon it, like if somebody is going after it, kind of like we're seeing with this current administration that she is a part of,
right, exactly.
I'm not going to do anything about it, and I will let them run rampant over all of your crypto innovation. So, yeah, I mean, obviously she has the absolute worst response to this. We know she doesn't care about crypto or anything. We know the people that align with her are actively trying to harm it, like Elizabeth Warren. So, I mean, can't in good conscience vote for people like that, obviously. Do you have any thoughts on like RFK or her or anything like that? I mean, I don't know if there's really any other direction to go.
I didn't really see much of what he said. I do like the guy too. And you know, it would have been interesting to see him as a possible vice president selection for Trump. I think they would made a good team. And yeah, I don't think he stands a chance. You know, usually they say it's interesting how they say that the independent though can take enough of the votes away from one party or another that could change the election. So I just, you know, I hope that doesn't happen, but either way, I do like what he stands for. I like his messaging, and it does suck that he got basically booted out because he's not the puppet that they wanted in office.
Basically. Something with him I think you have to remember, and we can end it here, I guess, with the politics, but he is still a liberal, though. I mean, like, there's a lot of his policies that are somewhat liberal. Like, there's been other Democrats that I was like kind of softening on in the past, and then you see that they still kind of have that liberal point of view with policies that I will never agree with. So I mean, that stuff is still out there. And in terms of that whole, like, you know, taking away votes from other people, like I remember we talked about this. I voted for Gary Johnson. I think you said you did too, in 2016, the Libertarian candidate. And I remember this person saying to me like kind of subtweeting me or Facebooking me back when that happened. It was just like, see all you people that voted for Gary Johnson. He was flipping out that Trump got elected. And he was like, if you wouldn't have done that, you know, maybe we could have prevented this. I'm like, well, what the hell makes you think I was voting for Hillary? I was no scenario I was voting for Hillary. So
exactly.
I mean, you know, Trump would have been my next choice. You know, that was before I understood what, you know, Trump was really all about and stuff like that. But yeah, it's
exactly.
So.
Yeah, same boat for me. I mean, Hillary would not have been my selection. So
no, wouldn't have ever happened. Okay, let's get on to this. I think we do have to cover this real quick. So this whole thing of the SEC, you know, dropping any of their ideas of Solana, Cardano, all these other tokens that they just kind of with a huge swath have said, these are securities. We're going to treat them like securities. You're all in trouble. You go to jail. Goodbye. I don't know that it's cracked up to be. So there's been like a couple releases of this. And then, of course, people like influencers within PulseChain took it, and you know, a lot of them. And, you know, maybe we should just read a little bit more before we start doing that. But just kind of retweeted it with like, oh, okay, so here you go. PulseChain, not a security. And it's like, well, yeah, we all know that. We all believe that that's going to be the eventuality of not only with PulseChain, but all this stuff. We know this is all going to go away at some point. It's just a matter of time. But the SEC really doesn't have anything to lose. Like, I mean, other than cases and their reputation, which is constantly happening. But I mean, it's not like people are taking money right out of their pockets. They're actually trying to do that to investors and to people that are creating these products. So, they don't really have all that much to lose. They're backed by the US government. But to really look into this and see what they actually said, I'm just going to, and I will DM you this so we can bring it up. But I just want to look at, you mentioned Nuclear Herbs just a bit ago. I think that's who we have to
already
go
have
to.
it.
Oh, sweet. Okay. All right. We'll just go ahead and break down what he said because, I don't think we really need anything else. So he says, and of course, Binance was also mixed up in this. This is the Binance lawsuit too. So he says the SEC versus Binance thoughts. I thought I had posted this earlier. Important to dispel the rumor going around that the SEC no longer considers Solana, ADA, and Matic securities. This is not to take away from the latest filing at Binance, where the SEC is reportedly dropping those cryptos from its complaint. In the initial complaint, the SEC alleged that Binance sold various securities, including but not limited to Solana, Cardano, Matic. Now, if the reporting is accurate, the admitted complaint will claim that Binance sold various securities, not including those three tokens. This does not mean that the SEC has somehow changed its position relative to those three tokens. Think of it this way. I make 10 offensive jokes at work that HR thinks violates company policy. HR now believes 7 of them are absolutely clear-cut violations of company policy, and 3 of them might also be, but could be tougher for them to prove. So they dropped those 3 from their complaint against me because they believe the other 7 will still provide the basis to fire my ass. This has nothing to do with their belief that the other 3 statements also violated company policy. That's what I believe may be happening in the SEC versus Binance. But as I said, this is based on reporting that we've got to wait on actual findings to know for sure. The only thing I believe you can reasonably take away from this filing, again, if the reporting is accurate, is that maybe possibly the SEC believes it would be harder to prove its claims that SEC, ADA, and Matic, I think he had a typo there, SOL, he probably went Solana, shit out of luck, and Matic are securities, so it wasn't worth their time and effort to try to do so in this one particular case. I get what he's talking about, it's just the SEC being the SEC, like kind of just lazily taking out the 3 that they may not have as much of a chance against. It's not them deeming like, hey, we're dropped. The lawsuit's not dropped. It's not like you guys are no longer in here or anything like that. They're just doing something strategic. So I'm really glad that he pointed this out because people everywhere, not just PulseChain influencers and like transferring this over to PulseChain, but people across the crypto sphere have just been saying like, oh, hey, here we go. They dropped it. They're not securities, whatever. That while we don't think any of them will actually be deemed securities in the long run, the SEC certainly is still going to try. Is the long and short of this, right?
Yep, that's my take on this too. They just removed those 3 for now because they want to get more solid things in a single complaint that they can. They will probably attack those either individually or later or whatever. There may not even be a later, depending on how long it's put off, depending on if the seats that are there in the SEC get cleared out and reappointed to somebody else, this may be a non-issue. So there is that part of it. Depending on, again, how long they drag their feet before they do it, this could be a good thing. However, it's not them saying that we don't think they're securities. We just don't want to tie them to this particular other thing that we've got going on.
Right. And you kind of just led me to another thing there when you talked about like, relating this to the RH case and the fact that with a regime change in the United States, with the SEC becoming weaker, if Gensler gets going, all these things that we think are coming over the next couple of years, will this lead to like a slow bleed, like in terms of Richard's case, like whether he just gets an outright decision based on the lack of jurisdiction, or it's just kind of waiting out the clock to win? Which one could it be? And you just reminded me of this really good tweet that I sent you the other day from, and I know he's another guy that people have opinions about, but Buck from Fame, PHFA. He had this really good tweet the other day that I know Corey and Dane read on their show, which I think was great because I also thought it was terrific. I just sent it to you. I don't know if you have it up yet, but it's a long one, and it's about like where he thinks crypto is kind of headed here and how everything is setting up for it. And then he ended it off with some PulseChain stuff. And I think it was really well thought out, and I really enjoyed all of his points. And I'm kind of shooting off the hip. We weren't going to go here, but you kind of just led me into this, because I think this is what maybe bullish for the RHK. So just kind of going through it. We don't have to talk at every point. I'm just going to kind of run through his points. But he says easing will begin in September, meaning qualitative easing. What we're going to see in terms of the Fed and cutting interest rates, even though Ewok thinks they won't. Liquidity will come back as rates drop, forcing people to invest in risk assets. There's a sea change politically in favor of crypto, and I believe it is bipartisan. He does make a good point there. Even if Kamala wins the election, which would make me throw up in my mouth, I still think that we're well positioned a little bit compared to how we were. Biden's gone and all that. Boomers are finally losing control of power and will be replaced by millennials who own crypto or know somebody who does. Regulatory uncertainty may finally get fixed next year in Congress, bringing back serious investors to crypto projects like Uni or Aave, to name a few. That might have to do with some of the things that he's created too. Whoever wins the election will likely be more friendly toward crypto than the previous administration. I think he's probably right about that. Just because, not because they're better necessarily, but also because we're moving into the future. And, like the internet, it's like, hey, this shit's not going away, guys. So get on board. Crypto is finally learning how to organize and wield political influence. We are connected now to the most massive billionaires like Elon, who are sick of the government's overreach in general, and crypto will benefit from their lobbying directly. Indirectly, nation states hoarding Bitcoin and other crypto could lead to small arms race of buying. Smart money will buy in front if the policy looks like it can be enacted. Inflation is dropping and unemployment is trickling upward. AI is a wild card, but its rapid advances ultimately will be positive for crypto growth. We have established 2 key purchasing rails with ETFs. This legitimizes crypto in the eyes of Wall Street and gives them a way to make money, which means they will be staunch allies politically from now on with crypto, which is interesting. And I think that's true, because a lot of the boomers in the stock market over the last few years would ban you from forums if you brought up Bitcoin. But guess what? There's no avoiding it now. So
Right.
I know I kind of rapid fired through those 12, and then we'll look at the PulseChain specific ones. But did any of that jump out to you? And what did you make of some of the points he made there, Ewok?
Yeah, I still don't agree with number 6. I don't think whoever wins the election will be more friendly. I think there are still bad actors at play if Trump does not become president. And I think the banksters still want their way. And I think Kamala is more of a influential type person, where I don't think she's going to be making a whole lot of rules on her own. I really don't. And so, they're going to be, I hate to say it, but I really think she'll be a bigger puppet than what Biden was. As incompetent as he is, we know he wasn't the one pulling the strings. I think it's going to be more of the same, and it could get worse. So I don't agree with that. I really think that we do need this change to happen in order for crypto to be able to move forward in a more positive way. All the other stuff I do agree with, except I still don't see that September thing happening, for the simple reason of basically tanking the market right before the election. So no, all the other stuff I'm on board with. I totally agree with.
Let me ask you this, going down to the more important stuff here. So specific to PulseChain, he says RH is going to win either directly or by running out the clock, which is the point you just made a moment ago, and I think is dead on. If he has to run out the clock, then let's run it out. The SEC will have to find someone else to kick around besides crypto and the new administration. And Unshackled RH can bring back the enthusiasm and community with one single live stream. Our valuations are very low given all of those factors. We look like we are dead at the moment, but can change very quickly and easily. Couldn't agree more with that point. If he takes off once the what is he saying here? Once the what is this?
Once they get the outflows.
Oh, okay. I'm like, what is this a word that ETH made up that I don't understand? Okay. Dissipate, then PulseChain as a pure play on ETH should be too. I think these are a great point. I think you'll probably have more opinions on these ones, but yeah, I totally agree with the valuations being low, things being like, yeah, the chart is down, but all these fundamental factors is why I'm still buying Pulse with every cent that I have. But yeah, what do you make of these points?
All very bullish. It's funny how I think Johnny made a quick video earlier today about how it's funny, one live stream can change all of this. But how many things do you invest in that you don't know who the founder is? There's a lot of things that work really well that it really shouldn't matter. And unfortunately, people value that part of it when it's really unnecessary, So I don't know. I do agree though that one live stream, I think it would be astonishing to see what one live stream from him could do to this whole ecosystem. I think it's pretty cool. So yeah, no, I'm again on board with all of this. It's very bullish. He said a lot of positive things in his comments there. So
Something I won't, if you don't
one
mind, I
more
want to say
quick
something
thing.
real quick.
One more quick thing. I think
Yeah.
with all of these bullish things, we need to get more people to understand how close we are to good things happening. So, and that's all. Go ahead.
Right. To your point about like, yeah, like, most people invest in things where they don't even know the founder. Yeah, that's true and everything. But like with Richard, it's kind of like he's a victim of his own, virality kind of. It's like, well, he was out there doing all these great things. Everybody loves him, so they want him around. You know what I mean? So it's like, not, I don't literally mean he's a victim, but you know what I'm saying. Like, it's just that the cat's kind of out of the bag. The Pandora's box is open on what this guy's like, how he can kind of own people in debates on crypto, how smart he is, and just how confident he is. So people like that. They want to see more of that, So,
well, he is part of the product, and that's what he created. He always made himself part of the product, right?
Mhm.
I think with as much as he live streamed and the 7-8 hour long streams that we got some time ago, he kind of created that on his own. So, DJ Moonboy.
Moonboy, appreciate it, brother. Oh, you got a question? Oh, sorry. You go ahead. EHEX, fire away.
How do you guys currently feel about EHEX? Do you think RH will say anything positive about it? I'm assuming is what you meant. I still feel like it has tremendous potential. Thanks for all the hard work, week in and week out. We'll answer that in steps. Do I think he'll say anything positive about it? Not really. Not yet, anyway, unless the market decides something else, right? All he said about it before was, looks like the market decided. If this happens, and I could see it happening when this bull market starts, and people see the price of Hex, and it is a lot closer to the on-ramp and off-ramp of Ethereum. If Ethereum goes up, people may buy EHEX first. They may not even know about PulseChain. So I think it has tremendous potential as well. I do agree with you. The liquidity is a lot thinner too, which means it's going to run even harder than what PHEX would run. So there's a lot of positive things about it. There's a lot of things that are very bullish. And then and only then do I think he will even mention the price of it. So he took a lot of flack for what he said when he said it the last time and said, looks like the market decided, and everyone's like, I can't believe you just tanked your own coin, So he gets put in a tough spot now when people want him to say something bullish about it. I don't know that he will. What do you think?
No, I don't think he'll go out of his way to say something like singularly bullish about EHEX. I mean, he could say some little offhanded comment that people suddenly take way too seriously, just like they kind of took his other comment the other direction way too seriously, and people will overreact to it. But I don't think he'll go out of his way. He's not going to have a stream dedicated to EHEX or anything like that.
Right,
but
right.
Remember, these things still are going to be liquidity bonded. There is bonding between Ethereum and PulseChain, and yeah, I mean, I think it'll do well. Do I want to buy it? More than some of the other assets right now? No, not necessarily. But, when it has kind of when it was at towards the bottom of its ratio to Hex, yeah, I bought some then. You know what I mean? So I'm not treating it like, I'm not hardcore DCing into it like I am the other stuff. I'm more so looking at PulseX and Hex, and with other stuff too. But I don't think he'll go out of his way to say something incredibly positive about it
And,
anyway.
and this is another thing too, is Just Live just said, cheaper fuel makes everything more affordable, goes for ETH too. Now, we don't know
Mm.
how long that'll stay affordable. Right now it's very affordable to do anything on the Ethereum chain. So, you know, uh, does that stick around once things get bullish? I don't know. Was something fixed that we don't know about? I don't think so. I think, not having the amount of NFTs and that type of gas restrictive products that we had last cycle could help. But I do still see the price of Ethereum and the transaction costs getting up there. So yeah, while it's cheap, I think it's going to be okay. But just know at some point that the fees could get outrageous again, just as easily as they did last time.
Yeah, we're not going to get into it because we don't have much more time tonight. But the ETH gas stuff, I've kind of wanted to talk about for a while. I mean, we've seen Gwei numbers of 1, 2, 3, 4 in the
Yep.
morning and evening, sometimes even some of the middle parts of the day. I did see it cut the whole way up to like 14 earlier today when I looked. And, it's
Oh.
a good sign when you see that and you're like pissed about it, because that used to be like, holy shit, Gwei's the whole way down to 14.
Yeah.
I mean, dude, even within like in 2023 during the day, we would see Gwei in the 30s and stuff like that. So it's
Yep.
actually like better than that. It's the best I've seen in a cycle. I mean, I haven't seen this, So
Yeah, I remember
um,
waiting on the weekends, like a Saturday night at like 2 a.m. to try and catch 30 or 40.
oh my
Um,
god,
and,
wow,
and
yeah,
hoping that you would. And that's just it's crazy how you look back at it, and
yeah,
it could easily get that high again. So just keep that in mind. And
yeah. Remember that on the back end because
yeah,
you might be selling stuff too. So remember
yeah,
that for sure. But yeah. Well, good stuff. This has been a really good one tonight. We appreciate all of your feedback. TJ Moonboy, thank you for the super chat. Ewok, did you have any final thoughts for the stream this evening?
I don't think there was anything on our list that we just really needed to hit on tonight.
Yeah, I didn't notice anything else that was incredibly pressing at the moment. So,
Yeah, that's
yeah,
awesome, Johnny.
yep, there you go. Bingo. Well, we really appreciate you guys. So we do this every Wednesday night at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thank you all for being here tonight. We're going to have increasingly like just great stuff coming up at the end of this year. I mean, like there's still many, many reasons to be bullish. I know many people are still down in the dumps because prices are down and that sucks. And it definitely does and everything. But, that's partially why, other than that, we just enjoy doing this and having a channel and talking crypto and stuff like that. It also is a distraction, even though we're talking about crypto, it is a distraction from, mindlessly sitting there just looking at prices and being upset about them or something like that. So I know everybody I get sick of the go touch grass meme. It gets kind of old, but I mean, yeah, for sure. Like, don't be checking up on, definitely be here, be involved, and be ready for things to take off because you want to be paying attention right now. But, if you're to the point where your mental health is actually suffering because you're checking the charts all the time and stuff like that and seeing how far down you are and stuff, you have to just lose yourself and get out and go do something, whatever it is, and be intentful about it. Like go find another activity to do, sign up and do something. That sounds contrived coming from me because I know you are too, Ewok. I mean, like kind of busy as hell anyway with our outside lives. So, but anything you can do, to make the days go by while you're waiting for things to turn around,
Yeah, for sure.
But we appreciate you guys. Briz, Cody Pauly, Hex Girl, Johnny Chaos, Just Live, DJ Moonboy, Carl Turacek. We had a lot of people in here. There's a lot of people I don't recognize. Take a break with Jake. Thank you for producing the show. As always, checks my pulse. Old Chunk of Coal, Cody Pauly, I already said your name. Axis earlier in the show. We appreciate all you guys. So we will see you next week. It will be August. We'll see if prices are a little bit better. That'll be August 6th, I guess. Something like that. 7th. Yeah, 7th. Yeah, so we will see you guys then. Enjoy your week. This has been Broke Boi Crypto for Crypto Ewok. Catch you next week right here on the Creed of Crypto live stream. See you, everybody.